Alright, the first thing that we're gonna make is the healthy French toast. Now, I call this healthy because it doesn't have eggs, dairy, butter, or things like that. We are gonna be using bread. So I have this bread by Dave's Killer Bread. I would usually use Ezekiel bread, but this is the only thing that we have right now, so this is what I'm gonna use. We're also gonna be using flour in this recipe. So if you are gluten-free or you want a more whole foods recipe, I just made a reel on my Instagram for my blender pancakes. They're made with oats and just banana, spices, things like that. So if you're looking for something that's more whole foods, plant-based, this is more for like the weekend or something that's just a little bit more fun but still healthy. So it's not fried, we're not using oil, we're not using butter, and it's just more of a low-fat recipe. So the first thing we're gonna do is make the batter that we're gonna put the French toast in. So we're gonna need a cup of plant milk. Now you could use almond milk, hemp milk, cashew milk, any kind of milk you want. This is just soy milk. This is all I ever use is West Soy. So use whatever you got. You could even use a sweetened soy or plant milk in this and it'd be fine. But the one that I'm using is unsweetened. All right, so we're gonna add the rest of our wet ingredients. We're gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm kind of making these like cinnamon French toast sticks. So I'm gonna add a little pinch of salt for flavor. Probably like 1/8 a teaspoon. Actually have an 1/8 of a teaspoon. I brought all my measuring spoons over to the new house, so I had to order new ones. So I literally have a 1/2 a teaspoon measuring thing. I have this one and I have an 1/8 of a teaspoon. That's all I have over here right now. We're also gonna add a tablespoon of maple syrup. I'm gonna add a lot of cinnamon into here. I think I'm gonna do a whole teaspoon, just because I want it to be really cinnamon flavory. We're gonna add a teaspoon of ground flax. Also a teaspoon of nutritional yeast. This just gives it kind of like a eggy flavor. It's totally optional, like you really don't have to add it in here, but I think that it gives it more depth. And then we're just gonna whisk this together first. And then we're just gonna add in 3 tablespoons of flour. All right, so we can whisk this up. This isn't supposed to be like incredibly thick or anything. I want that to be pretty mixed together. I actually took my immersion blender and just blended it because I don't have a whisk over here either. I have to buy so much more stuff. So I'm gonna use 3 pieces of bread and I'm gonna use the end one as well. We're just gonna cut each of these pieces into 3. So just like that. And then I have my little Cuisinart griddler heating up over here. So this is what I'm gonna put these on, which I'm actually just gonna move everything around so you guys can see. So you'll see this batter it's not super thick or anything, it's still pretty watery. It's supposed to be like that because we're essentially just gonna be soaking this bread into this batter. So you can put a couple of them in there and you just wanna get them like totally soaked. Then take them out, just put them on our griddler. So if you were making about as much as I'm making, so 3 pieces of bread, you could probably get by with using half of the recipe for the batter. You could probably just use 1/2 cup of milk and then half of all the other recipes, but I kind of like to make the recipes big enough for someone to cook for their whole family. So this will make French toast out of 6 to 8 pieces of bread. So yeah, I'm probably just gonna make some more just to not waste these. So we'll let these cook for about 5 minutes on the first side and then flip them, and then another 5 minutes on the other side, and they should be pretty browned by then. So I just took this one off. You can see how nice and done it is on both sides. We can just put them onto a plate. Then we'll just top them with some maple syrup. This is such a good recipe for kids if you have like picky eaters. Also just gonna put a little bit more cinnamon on top. Alright, so we are gonna make this veggie curry tofu scramble, and we're gonna need lots of veggies for this. Obviously, like all my recipes have lots of vegetables. So the one that I had at the Govinda's Indian restaurant was like this. It had broccoli. They actually didn't use onions because they don't use onions and garlic, but it had carrots, bell peppers, zucchini, mushrooms, and then it also had some green peas in there. So we're gonna throw all of this into a pan with a little bit of water and just saute it for a little bit until it's soft. So I'm gonna use a really big pan here, and I'm gonna just throw all the veggies in. I'm not gonna do it in any specific order, so we'll do that, and then we're gonna add our spices and our tofu. So the only thing I'm not going to add into here right now is the green peas. And I'm just going to cover this. I have it on medium heat. I'm just going to cover it and let it cook until the vegetables start to release their water. And then I'll uncover it and let all that water burn off. It's kind of how you can, it's the best way to like water saute, because you can actually get like an actual saute that you would get with an oil without using any oil or added fat. Alright, so this is still cooking. I just kind of put this off to the side so it doesn't seam up the camera. But I have some spices here I'm going to add in. So I have turmeric, cumin, paprika, and nutritional yeast. This doesn't have a ton of spices, but it's really flavorful. So we're going to add this in. And then I also forgot that we're going to add in a chopped up tomato. We can also add our peas into here right now. And then I have a block of tofu, and I did not press this. I just drained it, and all we're gonna do is like take it and just crumble it into pieces like this. Alright, so I still have this. I put this on low, and we're just gonna mix everything up. So you just want to mix this up really well so that the turmeric gets all over the tofu and kind of gives it a yellow, eggy flavor. Another thing I'm going to add into here, and this is totally optional, but it's the Kalam Namak black salt. This has like a really high sulfur content, and it makes things taste like eggs because if you smell it, it smells like eggs. I can link the one that I got below, but if you don't have this, just add normal salt. I'm just going to add like a 1/4 teaspoon. And then I'm also just gonna add in some normal, regular pink Himalayan salt. So once we have everything mixed up really well, we're just gonna cover this and let it cook on low. All right, so this is done. I'm just gonna take it off. So with this meal, depends on how I'm feeling, but I usually like to eat it plain just because it helps me get a ton of veggies in the morning, and it's really filling. I'll eat it with potatoes, or you could eat this with like some toasted Ezekiel bread. You could have a bagel with this or something like that. But yeah, I really just like to have it with some oven roasted potatoes or like hash browns on the side. But that is it for this recipe. Let's move on to the next one. All right, we are gonna make the Tex Mex Potato Bake. Now, I have about 4 russet or yellow potatoes that I chopped up. They're about this size, so they're pretty, I would say like small to medium size. And I just chopped them all up at pretty much like the same size. I guess some of them are a little bit bigger, but you want them roughly to be the same size so that they all cook evenly. I can't talk today. I have a cup of roasted corn, half of a yellow onion chopped, half of a red bell pepper chopped, and then I just chopped up some mushrooms because I love mushrooms and I put them in everything. The other ingredient we're going to be using is a can of black beans. So I'm going to put this to the side really quick. So we're going to make a sauce to cook this in. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you might have seen my reel for the Chipotle, Better Than Chipotle bowl. I have it on my website as well. It's basically a remake of the Sofritas by Chipotle, and of course my dog's drinking water. And we're going to kind of make a similar sauce for this. So I have some Chipotle peppers and adobo sauce. Or peppers and adobo sauce. I don't know exactly what it's called. I'll make sure I put it in the link in the recipe though correctly. But if you don't like spicy food, don't use this, and I'll show you guys kind of how to make it without using that. And then like if you want to make the sofritas, the Chipotle remake, you can use this kind of marinade for it, because I had a lot of people saying that they couldn't handle spicy food, but they really wanted to make the tofu. So for the Better Than Chipotle bowl, and I told them just use the tomato paste and spices instead of the peppers. So if I could just talk, that would be great. Alright, so we're just gonna need a bowl for this. And we're gonna take about a tablespoon of tomato paste here. We have about half a teaspoon of ground cumin. We have half a teaspoon of chili powder. Half a teaspoon of paprika. And then you can either use garlic powder and then use salt, or you can just use garlic salt, which is what I always use because I'm really lazy. So I'm gonna put a teaspoon of garlic, or half a teaspoon of garlic salt in there. So then we're just gonna add about a tablespoon of water, and we'll see if we need more. But we basically just want this to be like a spicy, or not spicy, but a flavorful tomato paste to put over the potatoes. So this is what you would have, and this is what you can make the Sofritas tofu with as well. But I'm gonna add a tablespoon of these peppers because you guys know me, I like everything to be like mouth burning hot. So that's what we're gonna do. So now we just need a baking pan. This is like a 9x9 loaf pan, and I'm gonna throw my potatoes in here. And then we're just gonna toss the potatoes in this sauce really quick. And then I'm just gonna add in my mushrooms and then my bell peppers and onions. And then we can just toss this as well. So I have my can of black beans. I'm just gonna rinse and drain these really quickly, and then we're gonna add these and our corn in, and then we are ready to rock. All right, so I have my beans all drained. We're just gonna pour these on top and then pour in our corn. All right, so I had this in the oven on 400 for about an hour. Now, if you wanted to expedite the process quite a bit, you could just use pre-steamed potatoes, but I didn't have any, so I just did this. And I'll show you how I plate this up. So I just like to eat this as it is. I've had it with my vegan cheese sauce that's on my site on top, and that's probably my favorite way to eat it. But I don't have any today, so I'm gonna use a little bit of this extra cashew sour cream we had for tacos. It's almost gone. It's like really thin, so put some of that on there. Of course, I'll put some hot sauce on here. This is the one that I always use. People always ask me. This is like the only hot sauce I use, the Siete Habanero. I wouldn't even say it's that spicy. It's just like really creamy. And then I like to put some green onions on top and some fresh cilantro. Another thing you can do when you bake this is, if you want it to be kind of crispy on top, is take the tin foil off after like 45 minutes and just let it broil to get the top kind of crispy, but I just kind of like it the way that it is.